What if the only thing standing between you and everything you've ever wanted is your need to control it? Think about it. How many times have you tried to force life into a perfect sequence? Planning every detail, overthinking every step, clinging to a specific outcome as if your happiness depended on it. And yet, the tighter you held on, the more things slipped through your fingers. What if I told you that success, peace, and fulfillment don't come from pushing harder, but from surrendering wiser? This isn't about giving up. It's about shifting your focus from controlling life to flowing with it. A mindset the Stoics mastered centuries ago. One where true power lies not in grasping, but in letting go. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In this video, we're diving deep into a paradox that may just change the way you live. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. And by the end, you'll understand why detachment, not desperation, is the quiet force that moves mountains. 1. The art of letting go. Why you feel stuck even when you try so hard. Have you ever poured your heart into something, your career, a relationship, a dream, only to watch it drift further away the more you chased it? We've all been there. We hustle. We strategize. We stay up late thinking that if we just push a little harder, the universe will finally cooperate. But the truth, the more we cling to a specific outcome, the more we become entangled in our own expectations. We mistake control for power. We obsess over results, and when reality doesn't match the script in our head, we suffer. The Stoics understood this trap centuries ago. Epictetus, the former slave turned philosopher, offered a radical solution. Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens as it should, and you will be happy. In other words, stop arguing with reality, because reality always wins. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to go a certain way in order to feel at peace. Picture an artist painting a masterpiece. If they fixate on making every brushstroke perfect, worry how others will judge the final result, they'll choke their creativity before it even begins. But when they let go of how it should turn out and immerse themselves in the act of painting, the colors, the flow, the moment, that's when real magic happens. It's the same with life, with work, with love, with growth. When you stop grasping, you start flowing. When you stop forcing, you start creating. Ask yourself this: where am I gripping too tightly? What am I trying to control that might be better off released? Because when you stop demanding that life fit your timeline, your blueprint, your ego's checklist, you make space for something greater to unfold. Not through force, but through trust. 2. In love and life, why detachment attracts more than desperation ever will. Have you ever watched someone try too hard to win another person over? They send too many messages, over-explain their worth, constantly seek reassurance. Their energy, though well-meaning, feels heavy, like a hand squeezing too tight around sand. And what happens to sand when you grip it? It slips away. That's the paradox of desperation. The more you need something to happen, the more it resists you. But now think of someone who enters a room with quiet confidence. They aren't desperate to prove anything. They aren't chasing validation. They're grounded, comfortable in their own skin, and people are drawn to them effortlessly. Why? Because true connection is never born out of need. It's born out of wholeness. The Stoics would call this living in accordance with nature, not manipulating life to serve your desires, but showing up with integrity and allowing what's meant to come to come. When you enter a relationship, not out of fear of loneliness, but from a place of self-respect, your energy shifts. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing. This is detachment. And it's not cold. It's not careless. It's calm. When you no longer need someone to fill the void, you're free to love them as they are, not as a solution to your suffering. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And in love, bravery means trusting that you don't have to force what flows. That if a connection is meant for you, it won't require you to shrink, beg, or chase. It will meet you where you stand, when you're standing in your truth. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking a message, overanalyzing their response, or bending your boundaries just to keep someone around, pause, breathe, and remember this: you don't attract with pressure, you attract with presence. 3. The myth of the life checklist: why real success never arrives on schedule. We grow up being handed a script. Graduate by this age, get married by that one, make 6 figures, buy a house, all by a timeline someone else wrote. And when our lives don't follow that perfectly plotted checklist, what do? We panic. We doubt ourselves. We spiral into quiet shame, thinking we've somehow failed. But here's the truth no one tells you. Success is not a straight line. It is not a calendar event. And it definitely doesn't follow anyone's timeline, not even yours. Life is a winding road full of unexpected turns, closed doors, surprise detours, and hidden opportunities. And if you're gripping too tightly to just one idea of how your journey should unfold, you'll miss the magic happening all around you. The Stoics were deeply aware of this. Epictetus reminds us to focus not on shaping the world, but on shaping ourselves. He would say, "It's not what happens that disturbs us, but our attachment to what we think should happen." Ask yourself right now, what outcome am I clinging to that's causing me pain? A job you thought you'd have by now, a relationship that didn't work out, a goal that's taking longer than you expected? Now imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to release that grip, not as surrender, but as strength, not as defeat, but as trust. Because letting go of rigid expectations doesn't mean you stop striving. It means you stop suffering over what you can't control. It's like trying to sail a boat while fixated on exactly how the wind should blow. You'll burn out fighting the current. But if you learn to work with the wind, adjust your sails, and trust the direction, you'll reach shores even better than the ones you had in mind. Success isn't about how fast you get there. It's about who you become on the way. It's not about hitting milestones at breakneck speed. It's about moving with meaning, integrity, and patience. Because sometimes the detour is the path, and the version of you that can handle the life you're dreaming of. Maybe you're still becoming that person. 4. True power: responding with intention instead of reacting with emotion. Life will always test you. A harsh comment from your boss, a deal falling through at the last minute, a partner saying something that hits a nerve. And in those moments, those tiny but powerful flashpoints, you have 2 choices. You can react, or you can respond. Reaction is immediate, emotional, often unfiltered. It's the snarky reply, the defensive tone, the silent treatment, the outburst. It's your mind hijacked by your nervous system, by fear, anger, ego. But response? Response is strength. It's the quiet pause before you speak, the breath you take before you reply, the ability to choose not just what you'll say, but who you'll be in that moment. And that, right there, is where real power lies. William James, considered the father of modern psychology, once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." This isn't just philosophy, it's neuroscience. Studies now show what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. Your brain is not wired for happiness. It's wired for survival. It will always react first, to protect, to defend, to avoid pain. But you are not just your instincts. You are the one who can observe the thought, and then decide what to do with it. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So the next time you're caught in a difficult moment, when someone criticizes you, or when things fall apart, pause. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is this action aligned with who I want to be? Because the most powerful person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who stays centered when everyone else is spinning. Here's a real-world example. Imagine you're at work. You've made a mistake. Your boss is breathing down your neck. Anxiety starts rising. Your old thought pattern says, "I'm failing. I'm terrible at this. I'll never be good enough." But what if you trained yourself to respond differently? What if instead your mind said, "This is a moment to learn. This pressure is helping me grow. I am capable of improving." That's not just mindset. That's mental strength in action. Because reframing isn't denial, it's direction. It's choosing where to steer the ship when the storm hits. And just like physical strength, this kind of mental strength must be trained daily. The mind is like a garden. What you plant grows. Fear, doubt, anger? Plant those and they'll take over. But plant calm, plant clarity, plant trust, and you'll cultivate a kind of inner stillness no one can take from you. 5. Mental fitness, turning every struggle into a repetition of growth. Think of the last time life hit you hard. A rejection, a mistake, a season where everything felt heavier than usual. What did your mind do? Did it spiral into self-blame? Did it say, "I'm not good enough"? Or did it lean in and whisper, "This is training"? Because the truth is, every challenge is a rep. Every disappointment is resistance. And just like muscles are built by tension and recovery, your mindset is forged in difficulty. Seneca, one of the wisest voices of Stoicism, once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." He didn't mean that we should chase pain, but that when life inevitably brings it, we should use it. That awkward silence in the meeting, a rep for confidence. That breakup that shattered you, a rep for emotional resilience. That failure after months of effort, a rep for patience, grit, humility. Modern psychology backs this too. The idea of a growth mindset, popularized by Carol Dweck, teaches us that people who believe their abilities can be developed tend to persevere through setbacks. They view mistakes not as proof of inadequacy, but as opportunities to learn. But here's what most people get wrong. They think mental strength is just positive thinking. Smile through the pain. Pretend everything's fine. Move on quickly. No, true resilience is not denial. It's acknowledgement plus adaptation. It's standing in front of reality, unblinking and saying, "This is hard, but it's shaping me." Imagine your mind like a gym. Each tough conversation is a set. Each moment of uncertainty is another repetition. The discomfort isn't a sign you're breaking. It's a sign you're building. But like any gym, the results only come with consistency. You don't get stronger by lifting a weight once. You get stronger by showing up, especially on the days when you don't want to. So when life presses down on you, don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask instead, "What is this training me for?" Because the version of you that can stay calm in chaos, steady in storms, and kind in conflict, that version is not born. That version is built, one rep at a time. 6. Trust the timing. Plant the seeds, then let them bloom. We live in a world obsessed with speed. Fast food, fast Wi-Fi, fast success. If it doesn't happen quickly, we start to wonder if it's even worth it. And if we're not achieving fast enough, we quietly ask ourselves, "What's wrong with me?" But here's a truth the Stoics understood deeply, and our culture keeps forgetting. No great thing is created suddenly. That's what Epictetus said. And it's not just poetic, it's essential wisdom. You cannot rush growth. You cannot force fruit from a tree before its season. And you cannot become who you're meant to be without time, tension, and trust. Imagine a young artist. She pours her soul into her craft, day after day, canvas after canvas, but recognition doesn't come. Not yet. She sees others getting praise, getting opportunities, and begins to doubt. Am I even good enough? Should I give up? But here's the thing, she's not failing. She's becoming. Every brushstroke is not wasted, it's preparation. Every unseen effort is laying the foundation for something only time can reveal. And this doesn't just apply to creativity. It applies to love, to healing, to self-worth, to every meaningful transformation in life. You don't rip open the soil to check if your seeds are growing. You water, you wait, you trust. Yes, take aligned action. Yes, work with intention. But then release your white-knuckled grip on when it will all bloom. Because just like a tree can't be pulled into maturity, your life unfolds in its own divine rhythm. Socrates once said, "To do is to be." Your job is to show up, to act, to do, to live in integrity. Let time do the rest. If things aren't happening as fast as you want, maybe, just maybe, it's because life is still shaping you into the person who can receive what you're asking for. And when the moment comes, when the fruit finally ripens, you'll understand why it couldn't have happened a second sooner. So breathe, keep tending your soil, and let patience become your quiet superpower. 7. Scarcity versus abundance. You will always find proof of what you believe. Why do some people seem to attract opportunity, love, and peace so effortlessly, while others, despite all their effort, feel like they're always coming up short? Is it luck, timing, privilege, or is it mindset? Here's what most people don't realize. You see the world not as it is, but as you are. And if your inner lens is tinted with scarcity, I'm not enough, there's not enough, I'll never have enough, then no matter what's in front of you, you'll find a way to feel like you're lacking. The Stoics were not concerned with external wealth. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True abundance, in other words, is not about accumulation. It's about alignment. Let me give you a scene. Two people walk into the same room. One scans the crowd and thinks, "Everyone's better than me. They're more successful, more confident, more deserving." Their energy collapses inward, doubtful, guarded, heavy. The other walks in and quietly believes, "I belong here. I have something valuable to offer." They don't force it. They don't overcompensate. They simply allow themselves to connect. Open, grounded, magnetic. Same room, different reality. Not because the world changed, but because their inner world did. This isn't wishful thinking. It's neuroscience. The reticular activating system in your brain filters reality based on what you focus on. If you constantly think, "There are no good people out there," your brain will filter the world to confirm it. But if you shift to, "There is beauty, connection, and kindness around me," your mind starts to notice opportunities where it once saw none. That's not magic. That's attention. Abundance isn't about being naive or delusional. It's about choosing a lens that empowers rather than imprisons you. Gratitude is one of the fastest ways to shift into this lens. Every morning, ask yourself, what do I already have that someone else would consider a miracle? Because the moment you realize you already have enough, you move differently. You speak with more clarity. You give without needing. And paradoxically, you begin to receive more. Why? Because the world mirrors your energy. If you walk through life convinced that you're always missing something, you will be. But if you walk through life knowing that you are already full, you'll start seeing proof of that fullness everywhere you go. 8. Let go to let life happen. The quiet power of trusting the flow. Have you ever felt like the more you tried to control something, the more it slipped away? You plan. You strategize. You anticipate every possibility. You try to make people act a certain way, try to force circumstances into place. But instead of feeling more in control, you feel more anxious, exhausted, defeated. It's like holding water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. That's the paradox, and the Stoics knew it well. Epictetus taught that freedom comes not from controlling everything, but from letting go of the need to control. He wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." The moment you stop obsessing over how life should unfold, you begin to experience it as it is. And that's where peace begins. Let's bring this to real life. Think about relationships. Have you ever tried to change someone? To mold them into who you wish they could be? More supportive, more understanding, more aligned with your ideals? But no matter how much effort, persuasion, or compromise you offered, they stayed the same. Why? Because people are not projects. They are not problems to fix. They are sovereign beings walking their own path, just like you. You can communicate. You can set boundaries. You can choose who you allow into your space. But the moment you try to force someone to change, you create resistance. And worse, you give away your power. The same principle applies to success. You can and should work hard, prepare, show up, put in the reps. But when effort turns into obsession, when the desire to succeed becomes a need to control every variable, you create tension that blocks your own growth. Seneca said it best, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." If you're constantly fighting the current, timing, outcomes, people, you're no longer living, you're resisting. But if you trust the current, if you do your part and then release the outcome, you invite ease back into your life. Imagine you're preparing for an important job interview. You've studied, you've rehearsed, you've done everything right. But instead of walking in with presence and poise, your mind spins. What if they ask a question I can't answer? What if I blow it? What if I don't get the job? Now your energy shifts from confident to anxious, from focused to scattered, and suddenly your preparation becomes less effective, not because you lack skill, but because you couldn't let go. Here's the shift. Aligned action plus surrendered outcome equals flow. Take smart, intentional steps. Then let life do the rest. You don't need to micromanage the universe. You just need to trust that what's meant for you won't miss you, and that even if the path isn't linear, it's leading somewhere better than you imagined. Control is often rooted in fear. Trust is rooted in strength. And when you move from fear to trust, everything softens, but nothing weakens. 9. Calm action, aligned outcome, where success finds you without the chase. What if everything you're striving for, success, peace, connection, fulfillment, isn't something to be hunted down, but something to be drawn in? We live in a world that glorifies the chase. Work harder, push faster, grind longer. And if it's not working, the answer must be to force it harder, right? But here's the truth the Stoics lived by. The greatest strength is not in force, but in alignment. Not in trying to bend the world to your will, but in bending yourself toward what's in your control and letting the rest unfold. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, said, "Do what you must and let what happens happen." It sounds simple, but it takes immense inner mastery, because it asks you to let go of the illusion of control. It invites you to trust the rhythm of things, to act not from fear, but from clarity. Think of a seasoned chess player. They don't rush. They don't panic. They move with presence, with precision, with patience. They understand the game is not about speed, but about strategy rooted in stillness. Now imagine moving through your own life like that. You still prepare. You still act. But you no longer beg outcomes to validate your worth. You no longer grip timelines with anxiety. You no longer make decisions just to feel in control. Instead, you move from center. You act with integrity, and then you allow. That's not passivity. That's wisdom. Because no matter how much you try to control, there will always be things beyond your reach. The economy, other people's decisions, timing, outcomes. But there is one thing that will always be yours. Your response, your mindset, your alignment. And when you live from that place, a place of calm strength, patient discipline, and quiet faith, you stop chasing, and success begins to find you. So here's the invitation. Breathe. Let go of what was never yours to hold. Show up with intention, and trust that what's meant for you is already on its way, on time, in rhythm, and aligned with the person you are becoming. This is the way of the Stoic, and now it can be your way too. 10. The ego trap. Why your identity might be sabotaging your growth. Sometimes the biggest thing standing between us and who we could become is the person we think we are. We say, "This is just how I am," or worse, "This is how life is." But what if that's not truth but ego talking? Ego isn't always arrogance. Sometimes it's just fear dressed as certainty. It clings to old labels, past achievements, old wounds, familiar patterns, not because they serve us, but because they feel safe. The ego would rather keep us small and certain than vulnerable and free. The Stoics warned about this illusion. Epictetus taught that we must always question our assumptions about the world, about others, and most importantly, about ourselves. It's not things that disturb us, he said, but our judgments about them. Now ask yourself, what judgment are you still holding about you? That you're bad at relationships? That you're not creative enough, smart enough, disciplined enough? That you'll always mess it up somehow? Maybe those thoughts started as defense mechanisms, a way to protect yourself after failure or rejection. But over time, they became part of your identity. Not because they're true, but because they're familiar. Here's the hard truth. If you're more committed to defending who you've been than becoming who you could be, you'll stay stuck. Growth always threatens the ego, because growth demands that we say, "I was wrong," that we shed parts of ourselves we once clung to for safety, that we choose transformation over pride. It's like carrying a heavy backpack up a mountain. At first, it feels necessary. It's filled with things you think you need, memories, identities, proof. But the higher you climb, the more that weight pulls you down. And eventually you have to ask, is carrying this version of me worth slowing down my ascent? Real strength is not holding on. It's knowing when to let go. The ego resists humility. But your soul knows that becoming more will require releasing the comfort of who you were. So today, pause. Look at the stories you keep telling yourself about who you are, and ask, who would I be without this story? Because freedom begins the moment you realize you don't have to keep being the person you used to be. 11. The space between stimulus and response, mastering the pause. There is a space so small, most people never even notice it. But those who do, change everything. That space lives between what happens and how you respond. Someone insults you. You get rejected. Life throws a wrench into your plans. Your instinct wants to react, defend, lash out, shut down. But if you can pause, even for one breath, you unlock a freedom most people never taste. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, once wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." The Stoics understood this intuitively. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to observe his emotions like clouds drifting through the sky, acknowledging them without being consumed. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about separating your awareness from your impulses. You feel anger rising. You feel fear knocking. You feel ego flaring. But instead of letting those emotions drive the car, you pause. You breathe. You notice. And in that simple pause, you ask, what would the strongest version of me do right now? That question alone can change your life. Imagine you're in an argument. Your partner says something that triggers you deeply. Your body wants to snap, to prove them wrong, to defend your pride. But instead, you take a single breath. You let the emotion rise and fall. You ask yourself, is my goal to be right or to understand? Now, you're not reacting from habit. You're responding from wisdom. And that, right there, is power. Most people live in a loop, trigger, reaction, regret. But you can break the loop. You can master the pause. Because in that pause, you don't just avoid conflict or make better decisions. You reclaim ownership of your life. And the more you practice this, the bigger that space becomes, until one day your entire identity shifts from being reactive to being rooted. So next time life presses your buttons, don't ask for a perfect outcome. Ask for one clear breath. Because sometimes one breath is all it takes to change the story. 12. Rejection is redirection, the gift behind every no. Few things sting like rejection. The job you wanted, the relationship you nurtured, the opportunity you were certain was meant for you. And then suddenly it's gone. A door slams shut. A voice says no. And you're left with silence, disappointment, and that aching whisper. Maybe I'm not enough. But what if rejection isn't the end? What if it's a compass? The Stoics would say, it is. They believe that life has its own intelligence, one that far exceeds our limited view of what should be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs? Rejection, then, is not punishment. It's redirection. It's life rerouting you to where you actually belong, even if you don't understand it yet. Think of the times you've been rejected in the past. Look closely. Didn't many of them lead to better outcomes? Relationships that honored you more, paths that aligned deeper, growth you never would have chosen voluntarily? There's a story of a young man who spent months preparing for a job at a prestigious firm. He networked, studied, sacrificed. He made it to the final round and was turned down. Devastated, he took a different job, one he hadn't even considered before. Years later, not only did that job lead to deeper purpose, it introduced him to his future co-founder, life partner, and a mission that would impact thousands. That rejection didn't block his path. It built it. But here's the challenge. Rejection often doesn't make sense when you're in it. It only reveals its wisdom in hindsight. That's why it requires faith in the unseen. A Stoic kind of faith, rooted in patience and inner strength. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. You just have to trust that pain isn't the whole story. Because behind every no is a powerful not yet, or an even better not this. So the next time life denies you something, pause. Feel the disappointment fully. Then ask, what might this be preparing me for? Where is life trying to take me instead? You may not have the answer today, but one day you'll look back and be grateful that door closed, because it led you to the one that truly opened. 13. Peace over perfection, the final freedom. We chase perfection like it's the promise of peace. If we could just fix this flaw, if we could just achieve that goal, if we could just become enough, then maybe finally we could rest. But perfection is a moving target, and the more we chase it, the more it recedes, like a mirage in the desert, always just beyond reach. The Stoics knew this. They didn't aim to be flawless. They aimed to be free. Free from the opinions of others. Free from the trap of comparison. Free from the inner critic that never sleeps. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. And true freedom doesn't come from doing everything right. It comes from no longer needing to. Because here's the secret. Peace isn't the reward for perfection. Peace is what happens when you stop requiring perfection in order to be okay. When you begin to accept yourself, not in a vague, self-help kind of way, but in a grounded, courageous, deeply human way. When you can sit with your past mistakes and say, that was part of my making. When you can look at your unfinished goals and say, I'm still worthy as I walk this path. Perfection is rigid, cold, fragile, but peace is flexible, warm, unshakable. It says, I may not be where I want to be yet, but I trust I'm becoming. It allows you to rest without guilt, to speak without over-editing, to live without armor. And paradoxically, when you stop striving to be perfect, you start living more fully, more freely, more authentically. Because life was never asking you to be perfect. It was asking you to be present, to be real, to be kind, to be whole, not flawless. So as we close this journey, these 13 shifts that reshape the way you live, love, and succeed, carry this final truth with you. You don't need to become perfect to be at peace, but you do need to choose peace over the exhausting pursuit of perfection. That is the final freedom, and it has been within you all along. If you've made it this far, then you already know. This isn't just information. This is transformation. You now carry 13 principles that can change how you see yourself, others, and the world. But don't just hear them. Live them. Revisit them. Reflect on them. And when life gets loud, come back to this quiet wisdom. If this journey spoke to something deep within you, there's more waiting. Click on the next video on screen. Your growth doesn't stop here. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe to stay connected to your highest self, one breath, one lesson at a time. Thank you for walking this path. See you in the next one.